I'm William Shatner. I've done a lot of things in my career, but this takes the cake. This is so cool. You, Joseph, today, it's all about you. You won the internet. Congratulations. It's exciting. It makes me want to celebrate. Makes me want to get up out of this chair. Makes me want to sing. Makes me want to dance. Makes me want to shout. Kick my heels up. Throw my hands up. Toss my head back. No, really, people should be shouting your name in the street.
Come on now. Sing
that song.
Joseph,
Sing it out loud.
Joseph.
I want to celebrate. Put it up in lights. No one else deserves to be celebrated like you because you are the best.
Joseph Jaffe is not famous. Me, Tom Arnold, I am very famous. I absolutely like, because it's very true. Like, I hadn't freaking heard of you until I sitting on a Friday night. This is how bad my life is. Listen, fucker, good luck. Good luck with your rebranding. Like anybody knew what the name was before. What was the name? Okay, who gives a shit? That's a good name because it's got your name in it. You can pretend you're humble. You say, I'm not famous. And, which you aren't. So you're just not being anyway, but I hope you get famous doing this. Good luck to you.
When it comes to chicken, I'm your guy.
Blinking.
I'll have what Joseph's has.
Look, somebody's talking about you.
This is what we call the voice of God.
Popping.
Everybody just gets to focus on you.
Grab me.
Probably not the best thing for an introvert.
I'm asking for you.
Well, I like a good chicken sandwich.
Touch me. Hi, David. Comment.
Oh my God.
Like.
You're actually an identical twin.
Push.
Maybe I'll just ask Julie to talk about what it is to be
No.
an identical twin.
Pick me up.
No, you didn't.
Shouting.
Surprise! Jeremiah, just hang on a second. I just got a text.
There's an edit for your new opening, Joseph.
I feel really honored to have been here, man.
But by the way, you've done a masterful job. Seriously.
And it was such a joy.
Thanks, Joseph. It's an honor.
Good on you. This was a pleasure.
I mean, you are the prime example of how to pivot in this new environment.
I wish everybody gets an opportunity to interact with Joseph Jaffe.
Who needs Cameo when I've got my own personal Cameo? Yes. It is 4:12. It is not 4:20. It is 4:12. And it is time for another episode of the very not famous Joseph Jaffe. I just smile when I see my good friends, Bill Shatner, I mean, I call him Bill, and Timmy Arnold introducing me. Today, we are going to laugh. We're going to smile. We might cry, but only tears of joy. Although sometimes we have heard of sad clowns. JaMarr John Johnson is not a sad clown. He's not a clown. He's not sad. In fact, he's very happy. And I'm happy that he is in the studio today. I've had a very busy day. I'm not going to lie. I did a clubhouse room for the Alpha Collective, my new project, which some of you have heard of, maybe many of you have heard of. In fact, if you've been watching the show, hopefully a lot of you have heard of this Alpha Collective. Now, just a reminder, if you go to alphacollective.xyz and you sign up for email updates and minting alerts, you can win a membership pass worth 1 ETH. And there are some of you going, I don't know what that is, but it's one of them. Let me get one of the Fs. You can get an ETH. It is worth, on any given day, anything between $1 and $1 billion. That is the volatility of Web3. And that's also why I've taken at least 3 Xanaxes by 12:05 p.m. Allegedly, not financial advice. Do your own research. All of that jazz. Let's move on. It is CEX time, May 2nd through 4th. In Phoenix, Arizona, and I am absolutely thrilled that I get an opportunity to spend time with some of the keynoters. We're going to talk a little bit about what that means for you, but first of all, let's talk about the star of the show today. Oh no, let's not. Let's talk about an offer first. Fine, be like that. If you use code Jaffe or not famous, by the way, it's me that is controlling these. It's not like I've got a rogue producer. I am the rogue producer, damn it. If you use code Jaffe or Not Famous to register, you're going to get $200 off your pass. But wait, there's more. There's more. You will also, if you do use Jaffe or Not Famous, you will get a walk on roll during a live taping of my show, which we'll be doing from the floor. I will be there in Phoenix, Arizona. I will be there at CEX, and you will have an opportunity to be on the show. But wait, there's more. There's more. Let's take away that. You will also get drinks with me, on me. Maybe we can even drink together. 2 straws, 1 glass. Probably not so good for COVID. Okay, forget about the 2 straws. But we're going to have a little private meetup as well. All the people that do register for this amazing event will get to hang out together. And as I said, have a drink on me. You've earned it. You deserve it. And then give me $100 of your $200 off. Just kidding. You don't need to do that as well. Now, one of the speakers is going to be Mr. JaMarr John Johnson. He is, in fact, the opening act. That rhymes. He is going to be the opening keynote / performance at the event on May 2nd from 6 to 8 p.m. And maybe we'll get a little sneak preview from him. Yesterday, we had the professional hobo, Nora Dunn. Tomorrow, the very famous Baratunde Thurston. And then finally, Zoe Skayman on Thursday. Excited for this week's guest. At the moment, still working on our show for NFT Fridays. But I can tell you that we will be giving away a seed of gratitude from Gratitude Gang NFT's wonderful collection. This is an NFT collection that is 100% powered on and by gratitude. If you didn't know how gratitude can power an NFT collection, just go and check them out. And for you to win, all you have to do is subscribe to this show and paste your YouTube ID, your username, in the giveaways channel in my very not famous Discord server. And that's all you have to do. Now, just before we get to our seated soliloquy, we just, a LinkedIn user said we're launching our Metaland in May. So just want to say congratulations for launching Metaland in May. Feel free to share more information. And, I'll be free. I'll be happy to give you a little bit of a plug. Why not? Life is short. And if we say wag me, then we better mean wag me. We're all going to make it by actually supporting one another. But today's seated soliloquy is actually called Comedy Doesn't Kill People. Yeah, comedy doesn't kill people. Guns don't kill people. It's the people that pull the triggers that do. That's not a joke. That's, a saying, whether you like it or not. And I don't like it. In fact, there was a comedian, what's his name? It's killing me now. It's going to come to me. Australian comedian, had his own talk show. Maybe JaMarr remembers who it is. And he says in his skit, there's a saying, I can't do my Australian accent. He goes, there's a saying, guns don't kill people. It's those that pull the trigger that do. He goes, but the guns kind of help, don't they? I mean, you don't just go up to someone and go, bang, bang, bang. That's not going to do anything. The guns kind of play a role. But anyway, I digress. I'm trying to be funny, and that does not work when you have a real comedian on the show. Why is the soliloquy called Comedy Doesn't Kill People? It's those that pull the trigger, because I'm referring to a different kind of a trigger. It's something that, it came up when Dr. Robin DiAngelo was on my show. And that clip, that whole feeling about her feeling that comedy was racist ended up on Fox News of all places. Suddenly all my friends started calling me up going, dude, you're on Fox News. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm actually watching The Bachelor right now. And they're like, no, you're on Fox News right now. But we really need to protect comedy. We really need to figure out how to find this balance between a joke that is funny, that isn't meant to be harmful, and quite frankly, this oversensitivity that is coming, this triggering that has become part of our ethos now, where we really have forgotten how to take a joke. And then, of course, there's a third exhibit, which is jokes that are mean, jokes that might mock someone with alopecia. We have to determine what is fair game and what isn't fair game. I'm not saying that I know the answer. I'm just telling you I'm not a comedian. I do not play one on TV, but I can tell you that I respect comedy, and I respect comedians, and I respect creatives, and I respect creators, and I also know that there's a lot that I don't know. And so my opinion in many respects is kind of irrelevant. What I do know is that I'm a hypocrite. That I know. I know that I will laugh at a joke that is about anyone other than me, but the minute it's about me, it's about the country I came from, it's about my religion, it's about, I don't know, about getting old, about anything on this ugly face, for example. I can call it ugly, you can't, because that's offensive. But the minute suddenly the joke is on me, I'm not laughing with you anymore. But at least I have that self-awareness of recognizing the hypocrisy. It's time to change that. It's time to actually bring on not just a comedian, but an entrepreneurial comedian, living large in Web3, someone who knows what they're talking about, and someone who actually recognizes, guess what? Comedy has the power to heal, not hurt, but heal. JaMarr John Johnson. He's a transformational comedian and speaker of 24 years. After a 14-year military career, JaMarr returned to his roots of speaking, giving service to the community through non-profit volunteering, fundraising, and entrepreneurship. What a mensch. One of JaMarr's major missions is helping nonprofits become self-sustaining through value propositions to its donor bases that provide value customers just can't refuse. He's appeared on ABC's Katie Couric, NBC's Dr. Oz, and MTV as a voice of comedic reason. Oh, I love that. For 50 Shades of Grey and Jersey Shore's final season, he enjoys chess, staying fit through sports, hiking, and intermittent fasting, which I do as well, although it wouldn't show. And of course, making people laugh, cry, and think about being the light that they wish to see in the world. Be the light. JaMarr is proud of his new book and course titled SuperConnecting, which goes into detail how one can create meaningful relationships in a digital age on any platform, be it social media, IRL, or I assume even the Metaverse. JaMarr, welcome to the show. And you guess what I get to do? I get to say you're on mute.
No, because I was waiting patiently in the green room and I had myself on mute just to make sure.
I do it every single time. The dog barks, I go on mute out of courtesy, and then I forget. But don't worry, we will not send 10,000 volts of electricity through the interwebs. You're safe with me.
Thank you so much. Great introduction. Thanks for having me. I love the whole entire intro to the show. You're giving me some ideas and inspiration for the future, so I appreciate you.
You are welcome to steal as many as you want, including the fact, well, I'm going to release, because I am launching the Alpha Collective, so it makes sense to share a little bit of Alpha, which is, and we'll, get back to it now. So this QR code that's sitting above your head right now, that is an airdrop using a company called Bonfire. And right now, people are getting Jaffe coin. In fact, you are too. This, not only are they getting Jaffe coin, so it's a way of actually driving and rewarding, recognizing live tune-in. Imagine doing that during one of your keynotes or performances.
Oh, great idea.
But guess what? It's only live. First of all, it's only live while the show is live. So when you watch it on demand, you're actually hopefully getting a little bit of FOMO. You're not getting rewarded for it. The other thing is it's gated. So you need to hold 10 Jaffe coin in order to get today's drop is 0.1, which is about $1. So that sounds good, right? It all adds up. But these are little techniques. So should we tell them the alpha?
Yeah, tell them the alpha. Fresh alpha daily.
Fresh alpha. It sounds like an alfalfa sprout. Well, JaMarr is coming out with his own coin, which I'm absolutely thrilled about. I promise you I will be one of the first purchasers of the coin that will be known as the funny coin.
Funny coin.
I mean, they call crypto funny money anyway, right?
Right.
So
yeah, my goal is to lean all the way in on all of the various preconceived notions and issues people have around money with the funny coin as a way to educate people on why they should be involved in Web3 as soon as possible, because we're at the beginning stages.
Well, I'm going to make myself an honorary advisor, which means which is self-appointed, I might add. And I'm just going to come up with ideas, and I will send them your way. And then, of course, like every good idea that is benevolently and kindly given, there'll be an invoice to accompany. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
No, but here is an idea. What about this idea that people send in jokes to you, right? They send in jokes. And if you like the joke and you keep the joke, you send them some funny coin back. It's like a way now that you actually have a built-in remuneration or compensation mechanism for people that are writing material for you and your whole community now. It's almost like to be able to say, guess what? I went from like however many writers you have on your team right now to as many people that support your community.
No, so great idea.
That's free.
We're already building that out currently right now.
Damn it.
I already have another crypto coin in and around the comedy space that I'm not at liberty to say exactly what that coin is right now. I'm waiting for some paperwork to get finished and finalized before I want to start driving traffic to it. But essentially, we have a community of over 34,000 people who are comedy enthusiastic people for comedy. And they're participating in various ways, like attending comedy in the metaverse, helping comedians write jokes, adding tags to jokes and things like that. So we already have a whole process for rewarding people.
All right. So I'm crossing that off my list. The only other idea I have is, nope, I'm fresh out of ideas. Let's get on with the show. Now, JaMarr, today actually is National Big Wind Day. And I wasn't really sure what that meant, if we were actually meant to think about wind, you know, from a renewable standpoint, from an energy standpoint. But I took a different direction. I thought about wind bags. And I was wondering, how do you cope with wind bags? How do you cope with people that have such big egos and points of view on, quite frankly, things that they really don't know anything about? Like, I don't know, like comedy.
Well, the way you handle a windbag is with something called prestige. So prestige, people think of it as like, oh, he's a prestigious individual, right? But prestige is actually magic. So when you're dealing with a windbag, what you want to do is use your ability to display magic and vanish from their presence. That's how you deal with windbags. So in the military, they taught us a move while marching called about face. And what you do is, as you're walking towards someone and you can tell that they're a windbag, you reverse the polarity of your steps and you walk away from them. That's how I deal with windbags.
I love it. So it's like an immediate just change course. Just
back away. Like you can do it in a lot of ways that the people around you will find funny, and you will inspire other people to build up the courage to do the same themselves.
So you can moonwalk, you can
that's a great one, because then all eyes go to your feet, and you can maintain eye contact with the windbag in question and wink at them and say, keep doing what you're doing, and you'll be alone.
All right. So just a little reminder, if you are planning on coming to CEX May 2nd through 4th, and you see JaMarr moonwalking away from you, you know that you are a windbag and you could change your ways. Repent.
I like that. I like that phrase, windbag. I mean, I haven't used it a lot myself personally, but I know exactly. I have people in mind, and the worst is a windbag with bad breath.
Exactly. Well, that's why you want to do double time moonwalking, or you know, and
no, that's when you want to. That's when you want to release the Michael Jackson kick, right? You want to actually hit him with that. Who's back?
Little bit of exactly. My voice is a little too low for that. So, you know, from the sublime to the ridiculous, this is a segment of the show that we call Fun Facts, where we go into your sordid past and background, and we try and find the dirt on JaMarr John Johnson and we couldn't find too much because you know, you live a great a clean life, or at least you hide it well. I do want to say one thing before we do get a little silly. Not that silly, but I do want to thank you for your service.
My pleasure.
I did see on the website it said veteran entrepreneur comedian. I didn't know whether that just meant you'd been in the business for a long time, or you know, I'm a veteran. I'm a veteran Web3.
Marine Corps was my first stint of service, and then I received an academic scholarship. Went to college as a reserve officer, and then became a naval officer after that stint there, and did that for a total of 14 years.
That's amazing. Well, you're a veteran, I suppose. But truly, thank you for your service. Now, it's still not going to prevent me from divulging these fun facts about you. For example, we found out that Dave Chappelle once told you that you would be a billionaire at a comedy show on stage, including reading your business card. Tell us about your interactions with Mr. Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, that was one of the most magical nights of my life. I had been doing stand-up for about 4 years at that point. And while on an OkCupid date in Oakland, California, it was a light, rainy night, and I was walking my date to the car. I just picked her up from her apartment, and I looked across the street and I saw a line of about, I don't know, 50, 60 people standing in the rain. And I was like, why are people standing in line in the rain? And she was, oh, Dave Chappelle's back in town. This is when Dave Chappelle just returned from his disappearance to Africa. So as an aspiring comedian, as someone who was definitely inspired by Dave Chappelle, to backtrack for a moment, when I first saw my first live comedy show, I was a naval officer. I was in Newport, Rhode Island for 30 days. Because I was becoming the anti-submarine warfare officer for my ship. And I drove through a snowstorm against the rules that weekend to go see Dave Chappelle's cast at the Improv. There was Marina Franklin, Kyle Grooms, Bill Burr, who we all know today, Donnell Rawlins, and then it was headlined by Charlie Murphy, rest in peace, Eddie Murphy's older brother. That show literally blew the back of my head off. And I had so many connections and correlations between stories that I was like, I'm a comedian. This is what I should be doing with my life. So fast forward 4 years later, I'm on this date and I see this line and I was like, hey, let's go see him. She's like, oh, I just saw him last night, actually. And the tickets were kind of pricey. They were $55. I was like, $55, girl, I'll take care of that. So I went and paid for both of us to get admission that night. And during the show, a lot of people were yelling, and some of Dave Chappelle's lines from his show, Rick James, itch, right? And people were getting kicked out because they were just talking too much. So 2 seats had opened up in the front. Now these 2 seats were open, and my date was like, hey, I gotta go to work in the morning. We were there for like 2 hours already. She was like, all right. So I kissed her. It's like, see you later. And I sent her home because she only had to walk across the street. And the girl who was to my left, she was like, hey, why don't we go take those 2 front seats? And I said, shh, probably not. I don't want to get kicked out either. She goes, don't worry. So I let her walk in front of me, and we walked up and we sat down in the 2 front seats. And the girl leaned over. She says, hey, why don't you give Dave Chappelle your card so he knows you're a comedian? Maybe he'll take you on the road. And I thought to myself, how naive. Like, it doesn't work like that. Like, he's performing, he's doing his show. I'm not trying to interrupt and network with him during the show. But then I thought to myself, you know, when am I going to have this opportunity again? When am I going to be 6 feet away from Dave Chappelle, who's one of my comedic heroes? So I pulled my comedy business card out and I put it on the stage to my left, his right. And about 30 minutes after that, you know, he was looking around for things to talk about, and he looked down and he goes, whose card is this? And then he goes and he picks it up and he goes, oh, and he reads it and he looks around and he spots me. He goes, oh, it's your card. And he goes, comedian, writer, singer, artist, handyman, which is the punchline I had on my card. The whole crowd goes crazy. And I'm like, okay, all eyes on me. And he was like, JaMarr, this is by far the most hilarious business card I've ever seen in my life. He's like, I'm not kidding. He's like, you're going to make $1 billion. And then when I retell the story on stage, I add some embellishments and make it even funnier. but it was a great story, but it was kind of like the wind in the sails, because comedy is a very arduous journey. And knowing that I made my hero laugh, if an audience doesn't react to a joke, I never take it personally, because I already know I'm funny. But guess what? Just because you're funny doesn't mean that everything will land. There's a percentage, and if you can be funny 80% of the time, you're gonna have a successful career and you're gonna move forward. And that's what I keep at the forefront of my mind. So that's that Dave Chappelle story. Still working on $1 billion. I think with Web3, I'm probably gonna get really close because I'm all in.
So am I, and I've just had my entire production department just to correct your title. So now it says JaMarr John Johnson, the entrepreneur and handyman. I've corrected it. No one's going to get fired. Bez is here and he said, handyman, that is funny. I'm rolling. Shoot your shot.
Absolutely.
And thank you, Bez. He said the live show is awesome. Yeah, I mean, this is the power of live. It's like you had to get a flight today. We changed the show. We did what we could to make it work, and work at will. Now, I learned
since we're live, why don't I do this too? I mean, I can actually show you. This is actually the card. Let me zoom in on it and focus in on the screen. There we go.
There it is.
That's the card. That's the card that made Dave Chappelle give me that blessing.
Wow, I love it. Well, there are a few really cool things about that. Number one, of course, the parental advisory that got my attention. The other one, of course, is your face, right? It's a business card doesn't have to have an image of someone. Yours does, and it's the kind of card that, you know, had you not had your face on it, smiling, being larger than life, I'm not sure that Dave would have been able to make that human connection or even wanted to. But there's actually a lot more going on in the story. Number one is the fact that in many respects, your card it wasn't as much as helping you, but you helped him. You helped the person that picked up the card, because you gave them an excuse. You gave them an opportunity to make conversation or to be a conversation. Your card was the conversation starter. Yes. And invariably it ended up helping you because you ended up with material, with a story as well. I don't think people even consider the power of a first impression, the power of, look, business cards are what are we going to do in the metaverse, JaMarr, when we don't have business cards anymore? Are you going to keep a business card when no one has them anymore?
Yeah, well, I think, you know, you bring up a really interesting point. And I remember when I was beginning my comedy journey, right before that, I mean, I had gotten really big into personal development at the start of my military career as an officer. My best friend, Sean, who I love to death, known him for nearly 23 years, he sent me a book in the mail called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that kind of was that was the book that kind of opened up my third eye for entrepreneurship, right? And I knew I'd always been an entrepreneur, but I didn't know a label for it. So and then I knew who I was, right? And then I started just like searching for knowledge. And I read another book called MAC Tactics, which stands for Method, Action, Confidence, and Knowledge. And one of the exercises in that book had me write an opening line in order to connect with women. But me being a comedian, I was like, you know what? I want to connect with everybody possible, because every new person I meet is a potential fan, right? Or business partner. So what I did was I developed I called it you can call it a pickup line, but I call it a super connection line. One that's unique to me, that I can say to anybody, male or female, and it will create a moment and an opportunity for connection. And that line for me was, excuse me, can you tell me how I can get to know you? Now I can do it with variable speeds. I've probably said that line 10,000 times. Excuse me, can you tell me how I can get to know you? And so what happens is, if it's a woman, me? And then she goes, oh, I have a boyfriend or I don't. And then I have a decision tree from there. If it's a guy, excuse me, you are a sharp individual. Can you tell me how I can get to know you? I love surrounding myself with sharp people. Boom. right? So you see, I took that little mini line and I've created variations on it. So in the metaverse, you're going to have your avatars, but you have the ability to speak to other people. So the first thing that comes out of your mouth is an opportunity to create a connection, or in my case, a super connection. And that's something that's going to have someone thinking differently than they've normally thought. And it's more than just saying, hi, how are you, right? You're posing a question, you're giving them the opportunity to respond, and then you're going from there.
And of course, the other thing that you're doing is you're making it about them.
Exactly.
So now it's like, and it disarms them as well.
Absolutely.
And most of the time people will be like, well, let's have a seat, let's have a drink. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. And, and then all you have to do is listen and learn.
One of my favorite responses, especially from other people who are also confident in who they are, they extend their hand and they just go, hi, I'm Christine. And then you're shaking hands. Now you've got that verbal connection, you've got the physical connection, and you're increasing. Now, what happens when someone extends their hand, the way that you shake someone's hand is going to transmit energy, and it's going to tell them a lot about who you are, right? Some people try to shake your hand and they try to apply lots of force to show you that they're strong. Yeah. Some people use a nice firm grip, but warm and inviting. Some people use a very tentative, soft grip, which lets you know a little bit about their personality. And so you're reading that information and you're also transmitting information. And then what you ask from there is really telling. One of the things that I teach in the book, SuperConnecting, is something I learned many years ago about. It's called FORM, right? Family, occupation, recreation, and motivation, right? So when you first meet a perfect stranger, maybe jumping right into family is a little bit too soon, but you can start off by asking them a little bit about what motivates them, what motivated them to be where they are in this space. And what are you getting into anything exciting or new today? Right? There's so many different questions. And then by keeping it on them, two things actually happen. He or she who asked the most questions is actually winning the exchange because you're controlling the conversation, but you're also actually making the other person feel really special, because how often do they get to just talk about themselves to someone new, right? You're giving them an opportunity, especially in this day and age. We're coming out of the mask era, right? Where people really didn't talk to each other for a long time. When you can come out and make someone feel special, ask them very interested questions instead of trying to just appear interesting. I can make myself more interesting by having mystique around me, by answering questions very quickly without going into too much depth, but then returning fire with another thought-provoking question.
I just, suddenly, whether it's my ADD brain, not diagnosed, but I'm fairly certain that it is a racing certainty. I just came up with some material for you. I couldn't help it, but I was just thinking, because you were talking about the handshake, and I was thinking to myself, I was thinking of the fist bump, right? Mm-hmm. And then I was like, well, have you noticed though that when people, they're not quite sure, so they do that and then they do that, you know, and it's kind of like, and it's the two, which is, and then I realized it's basically a game of rock, paper, scissors.
Exactly. Yep.
So I was like,
I have something for that. So when people do the fist bump, when people do fist bumps, I actually just grab it and I shake it, and it throws them off because they're like, wait, I thought you were gonna fist bump. And I'm like, no, I'm not afraid of the germs. So I just, put my whole hand around it.
Now you could just say paper defeats rock.
Yeah, exactly. It's a new way of dominating the handshake, right? Someone throws a fist bump and you grab it and you just shake it.
Yeah, I mean, and there are so many power struggles that happen. Even it was interesting, even during the shall we say the previous administration. It was very interesting that there was always this power struggle going on, this idea of pulling the other person or almost like patronizingly tapping tapping on the hand with the second hand. So it's interesting. And of course, going back to the metaverse and going back to Web3, which is when so much is virtual, when there isn't body language, when there aren't really these non-verbal cues, you've just got a hexagon avatar on Twitter. You have to find other ways to be able to read the room and deliver. And let's bring it back to comedy, right? Deliver the line, deliver the punchline when you don't have as many senses or forces in play.
Yeah, I think even though there's not a lot of body movement, and you got these robot bodies in certain metaverses like the Infiniverse, what you're going to have is the heightened importance of your verbal communication skills. Also, positioning, meaning, when you're in the metaverse, like I got my Oculus over here in the back, you can see right here, just to the left of the painting behind me. When you're in the Infiniverse, right? There's my Oculus right there on the sofa. When you're in the Infiniverse, it's important where you stand in front of people so that they can actually see the avatar face on your body, so that they can see hear the words coming out of you. So if you're talking to people, but they're not facing you and they're off by an angle, that's affecting the conversation, right? So there's always going to be things that you can do to improve and optimize the conversation. But I think over time, that's one of the things that we're really going to have to see happen is the improvement of the facial expressions and things like that will happen. I think we're probably 3 to 5 years away from it really being that detailed, because you're wearing an Oculus. There's no way it can determine all your facial expressions, right? You'll have to be in some more of like a 3D motion camera type setting. But I think the power of communication, the words you use. I'm a big practicer of the 4 agreements, which talks about being impeccable with your words, right? Not taking things personally, always doing your best, and not making assumptions. And I think, especially in the world that we're in now, people are making tons of assumptions, and they're taking tons of things personally that they really shouldn't, but you can't blame them because they've been trained to take everything personally, which is the opposite of being productive. It's just going to put you in a place of paralysis when you're constantly being offended by things and slights and things that you think people are doing to you, when in fact they're just living their life and you just happen to come across them.
Well, we've got the metaverse in front of us, comedy in the metaverse. But I love that positioning. That's such a great insight. But you've also segued into this idea of and by the way, we got a question coming in from Bez, who said, JaMarr, what metaverse platform do you use? Have you actually done a show in the metaverse? Yes.
Yes to both of those. And I'm in the Infiniverse right now with a group, and we have 6 comedy clubs there, and we are expanding into other metaverses as well, where we have a NFT project that, like I said, I can't tell you too much about at the moment. Minting's already closed for it, but we are purchasing comedy clubs in multiple metaverses so that we'll be able to have a network that connects all of them together and allows people to operate in different spaces. It's definitely a new experience, but I would say if I were to compare doing comedy over Zoom and doing comedy in a metaverse, I would actually prefer the metaverse compared to doing comedy over Zoom. Because oftentimes when I've done shows over Zoom, a lot of people in the audience either don't have their cameras on or don't have their mics on. So you're not getting 2 of the most important types of feedback. In the metaverse, people at least have their audio on, and you can see their avatar like moving when they're laughing, and you're kind of getting that 3-dimensional response that makes you feel like you're in a real environment, which I think really kickstarts the learning curve for how to communicate effectively. That's why there's no substitute for live performances and live speaking and live comedy. People will always pay to go see the real thing because it does something from a connective standpoint, especially when you think about, how oxytocin's released in the brain and actually heightens the experience being with other people. That's a natural human thing, and that's a super connecting thing.
Well, I'm smiling because you hit the importance of live, but you dropped a gem like I've never seen. First of all, here's another thing, by the way, you get in the metaverse. You get built-in crowds, which is amazing. And I am so funny on my own show as well. When I have someone like JaMarr on my show, the applause is going. But most importantly, you get that, because that point you made about feedback, that is the knowledge like I've never, because that's really what's been missing. It is the feedback. People say IRL versus virtual, whatever. Who cares? It's the feedback.
Yes.
I remember in the early days of Second Life where you absolutely could make your avatar laugh or applaud. I mean, it was very rudimentary, but you could at least see engagement. And it's one of the things that we see a little bit of with Twitter, with clapping or hearts, or we see a little bit with Clubhouse with people flashing their mics to indicate applause. But we need more. We need more. We need noise. We need visuals, and we shouldn't be afraid to lean into more. And I'm going to say the word disruptive feedback, because we crave that feedback as human beings. We need it.
Absolutely. And I mean, everything from, growing up in New York City, I always watched Def Comedy Jam on HBO, right? And when you would see really great performances, there would be times where people literally would get up out of their seat and run up the aisle because the laughter was so intense. They had to move their body. They were filled with energy, right? That kinetic force. And I think having the ability for people to give you noises and activities and uncontrollable things that enhances the situation, right? That makes it where, okay, this live environment, this is the best because I can see all of these little things, the micro movements, the someone crossing their arms, the someone crossing their legs, and I can key in on those things and try to uncover it. Is it just that you wore shorts today and your legs are cold, or are you not having a good time? Those little feedback. Now, some comedians, they take it personal and they kind of lock in on it, and then it's like they can't focus on their act because they're worried that this one person is not enjoying their set. I think you have to have a certain level of not really caring if everyone's enjoying, because you can't make everyone happy, right? If you try to make everyone happy, you'll make no one happy. But if you can make 80% of the audience have a good time, that should be enough to pull in the other 20 to go, all of the jokes didn't land for me personally, but I still enjoyed myself anyway because everyone else was, and it seemed like a good time.
I've actually heard something similar, but a different build on that, which is instead of fixating on the one person in the crowd that's heckling or that's, so I've heard too from actually people that have been on the show, and as a keynote speaker myself, I can tell you that I would always do the fixate on the person that wasn't engaged. So the two approaches I've heard, one is someone that would actually walk up to that person who's not engaged, who's scowling or folding their arms, and involve them and bring them into the whole act and the performance, and say, not embarrass them, not show them up, but be able to then kind of try and turn them, even being able to, and there's an art to doing it, right? To say, look, obviously something's very, very important on your phone. Can I leave a voice message for that person? Can I tell them that you'll be with them later? But then the other approach is, instead of fixating on that person, fixate on the person that is loving you, that is your number one fan, even if they are related to you. But that person that's rolling, just feed on their energy and give the energy right back to them. And the two of you almost become a machine that lifts everybody up. So, there are two approaches. I don't know which one is better. But they're definitely two to use.
Well, I think one thing in that scenario that you gave, right? It's really important to understand that you looking at someone and trying to determine if they're having a good time is actually a huge grand assumption that you cannot be 100% sure upon.
Right.
I've seen many people keep almost like a steady kind of stoic approach at a comedy show where everyone's laughing and you don't really see much out of them. But they've approached me at the end of the show with almost a detailed list of the things that they loved, but they expressed it very differently than what you would have liked to have seen. So that's the reason why if you focus on the 80-20, if you can see 80% of the audience is having a good time, you can be rest assured that most people are. But the people that you assume are not having a good time, perhaps they just have a limited range of how they express themselves. So don't fixate on them and think that they're not having a good time, because in your mind, they might not be having a good time, but in their mind, they're having an amazing time, but they're focused. So if you don't make that assumption in the first place, I just always assume that I'm having the best time and so is the audience, and I will my way through it emotionally so I can stay buoyant emotionally during the entire process.
Well, Mitch Jackson is here. Esquire says, good morning from California, Joseph. We are here with JaMarr John Johnson, who is the opening act. He is the keynote. He is the performer at CX, at the upcoming CX. JaMarr is actually going to be delivering that 6 to 8 p.m. On May 2nd. And you know, Baz has been commenting, and he decided earlier he was going to shoot his shot to you, JaMarr.
Okay.
He basically said, let's do comedy for a cause, round up some of your friends and use Jaffe's platform. I'm in if you are in. And then he said, I'll bring a legit project through my Rotary network. So he is enamored with him. I think we should just tell Bez that he needs to come to Phoenix, Arizona and hang out with us, right?
Oh, absolutely. Come to Phoenix. I'm always open to different projects. I probably do 3 or 4 live events per month right now. And that's both virtual and live in person. So I'm always open to the ideas.
So there you go. A shot was just shot. He shooted his shot.
Yes.
And remember, it is not the shot that kills people. It's the person who shot their shot. Okay, forget about it.
Yeah, and it's the location, right? If it was a flesh wound, it's like, oh, that didn't kill anybody. It's just right. And I think that's what just happened, that at the Oscars, right, with Chris Rock and Will Smith, there was a flesh wound, but it opened up a huge emotional wound, which, let's be honest, words can hurt if someone isn't well equipped and handling all the words that are flowing their way. My mother once told me growing up, sticks and stones may break your bones, but words may never harm you unless you allow them to. That unless you allow them to was huge, because where I grew up, we played the Dirty Dozens pretty much on a daily basis. This is where you and your friends all joke on each other. And sometimes people would say some really hurtful things. And it was happening daily. So you couldn't get into a fight every single day. You had to learn to be emotionally stoic and allow words to just roll off your back like a duck. But I will say that if you're taking things personally that people are saying that are attempting to hurt you, then you are actually giving up way too much power to people who really, don't care that much about your feelings. And to me, if I know someone doesn't care about me, the words that they say to me can never hurt me. Now, they can be hurtful words. They can say, oh, that was an attempt to really go low. But I'm going to always take the high road because, we live in a country where it is illegal to physically assault someone. And my brother's a detective in New York City. He's been a cop for 17 years. I was in the military. Being incarcerated is something that is not on my agenda. And so keeping a clear head at all times is 100% my responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, there was so many amazing points in there. But, I was thinking I'll add 2 to that. One is consistency, the power of consistency. Just be consistent. Don't take a joke one day and then not take it the next day, especially if it's the same joke.
Mm-hmm.
But the other one is this idea of of presence, of slowing. I even give that advice to my kids. I say, you have to slow everything down. The greats of the world, the greats, the athletes, the leaders, they have the ability to slow everything down. And I use even the analogy of when you see the Flash is moving at that incredible pace, everything around is slow motion.
Ooh.
You know, exactly the bullet that's coming across that they can just literally go and pluck. We have the...
Sorry, I was.
No, you know, that's great because
bullet time.
No,
that was Matrix bullet time.
That wasn't a hammer time. That was bullet time. You know why I love that? Because I can take that and I can go, you just made the intro to the next show. You know, so it's now all we have to do is do the no, we won't. So Mitch is happy because he's going to CEX already. And now it's like, wait a second, JaMarr is the opening act. We don't know about Jaffe, who led him in here. But unfortunately for Mitch, he is not going to get 200. Look, how's this for a segue, right? He's not going to get $200 off his pass because he's already bought one. He's not going to get a walk-on role during a live taping of my show. And he's not even going to get to have drinks with me on me unless he's buying, in which case, Mitch, I would love nothing more than to have drinks with you. And JaMarr. JaMarr is joining us too. How about that? It's all about native programming and content.
1000%. And honestly, I'm excited. One of my favorite authors, besides Mark Schaefer, besides Joe Pulizzi, I've read both of their books, love their books. One of my favorite authors who really helped change the trajectory of my business career is Daniel Pink. He's going to be there, and he wrote the book. He wrote the book To Sell Is Human.
And should we release a little bit of alpha, which is Dan Pink will be on my show in April. He will be on the show as well. And I love him. Stick around for when he's going to be on the show. Now, I tell you, someone who is on the show once and sometimes even twice a week is one of my brothers from another mother. I'm talking about Mr. Brian Fanzo. Here is his correspondent contribution today. And on Tuesdays, we always talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, justice, fairness. So here is his contribution.
Okay.
What's up, friends? When it comes to the creator economy and really this kind of shift that many of us are talking about, not only online, but around everything with Web3, one of the big shifts, I believe, is moving from the idea of really the creator triangle to a creator circle. And I know that's kind of like the circle of trust, meet the Fockers, but you just kind of bear with me for a minute. And really when we have to think about this circle versus the triangle, the idea of where the relationships matter and who's involved in the entire equation is what's most exciting, right? And for me, as a creator, growing an audience and then working with brands as influencer or content relationship, it's really like, it's the triangle. It's me with my audience. It's me with the actual brands. But if we think about it in the creator economy side of the house, it's actually not about individual relationships, but rather that the idea that we are all together in a circle, and that the more people we bring in, the more we all rise together. But it's not a pyramid scheme in the sense that the benefits or the actual link is tied to an individual and the individual's ability. But it's really this we are greater than me circle. The idea that together we can grow, and by being on this journey together, as we build, as we deliver more content, it's up to all of us to share, to amplify. And the cool part for me on this is that not only am I a creator, but I'm also a consumer. I love to, consume others' podcasts, YouTube videos, Instagram stories, content, blog posts. And the beauty of this is those that are providing me value, I can actually invest in them and kind of come along with them on this journey. And not only come along with them on this journey, but we can create value that is really beneficial for us in a consumption perspective. But we can also add things that are transactional. And then we can also add things that allow us to grow together and even pull some of our resources together. And I think that's where even the DAO conversation comes in. And for me, the creator economy is most exciting because we can build on top of it, right? We can have creator coins, we can have NFTs, we can create a DAO on top of that. And really, it's about this idea of we can think like a startup, we can act like a startup, but really we can build an economy in a way we've never had the opportunity before, because we're not tied to any one platform. Rather, it's about all of us together, coming together and making a difference, which is, well, that whole we is greater than me mindset. So that's what I got for you today. Hope you have an amazing day, and check out NFT 365 podcast in all of your favorite podcasting players. Cheers.
And he's also going to be a speaker at CEX, as is Mitch. Mitch will be speaking on day 2. So it appears everyone's speaking at CEX except me. So I think I'm not going anymore.
Yeah, I met Brian Fanzo at Social Media Marketing World. Much shorter in person. No, just playing. He was a great guy, great energy.
And he's like, I'm triggered, I'm offended, I'm insulted, I'm dismayed.
Oh boy. Yeah. And I know we don't have too much time left, but just to talk about, people being sensitive when it comes to comedy. If you are easily triggered by other people and jokes, what that actually says about you is that you are easily controllable by the words of others. So I just want people to think about that. Because if someone can say a word and that word can make you black out, forget about what you had planned today, the week, the year, and the rest of your life, and commit an act of violence because of a word. Now, we're not talking about someone threatening you. A joke is honestly non-threatening. A joke is to elicit laughter, sometimes directly from the person that it's being told to, or sometimes from the people around the person it's being told to. But jokes, when you go into an environment where it's expected that there will be jokes flying around, try not to take things personally, laugh a little bit, and then I think you'll be a lot better off.
Well, normally I would say those are fighting words, but those are not fighting words. Those, in fact, are healing words.
Yes.
Well, you know what? I was going to say, I know this is something that I think you've already addressed this idea of the importance of humor in healing. Do you want to comment on this a little bit, just in the time we have left? Otherwise, I want to make sure that there is time for you to give a little sneak peek for what we might expect in your opening performance and keynote.
Sure. Yeah, humor. I grew up in a very rough environment in New York City. My mother is a recovering drug addict. She used drugs from the time I was 5 until the time I was 12 years old. So we're talking about 7 years. At that time, while she was using drugs, I lived with my grandmother, who was a functional alcoholic. So there was lots of chaos going on in my upbringing. But the one thing that my mother taught me, even through all of those trying times, was the importance of laughter, to keep from crying, but as a coping mechanism for the pain and suffering around you. There's an equation for comedy, right? Tragedy plus time equals humor. And that's why there's this saying of, is it too soon? One of my favorite comedians one of the reasons why I started doing comedy is because of Dave Chappelle and the cast. Donnell Rawlings was one of his cast members. And on that tour, he had a lot of jokes that seemed like they were too soon. So he came up with this concept called, it's never too soon for an observation about something heavy, because that observation can give some people clarity and insight. But let's look at scientifically what happens. When we laugh, some neurochemicals are released in our brain. The key neurochemical is called oxytocin. Oxytocin is the bonding chemical. It's what a mother feels with her child when the baby lays on her chest. The baby's releasing oxytocin, the mother's releasing oxytocin. So the same thing you get from holding hands is what you can get potentially from a joke, right? But it also depends on your framing. And so it's really important to understand the perspective that and the perception and using those two as lenses to determine how things are happening. Are they happening to you, or are they happening through you? Or are they happening for you? Is the universe conspiring to assist you or to your demise? That's all internal. So if you can adjust those internal levers, right, then everything is going to happen. And, you know, real quick, in doing comedy and you know, being 6'1", an attractive Black man, I've had a few comedians, several who have achieved a lot of things. One in particular is Pete Davidson, for example, who's currently dating Kim Kardashian. But he was on one of the shows I produced in New York City. And when I would bring him up to the stage, his first attack would be on me for how good looking I was. And he would have the audience rolling. Now, what he was doing was he was using comedy as a weapon to say that, why is JaMarr doing comedy? He's too good looking, he's attractive, he's educated. Why is he doing comedy? Leave the comedy for the ugly guys. And he was making fun of himself, but while making fun of me for being too. Now, what he did was he made my job harder because I had to take those jokes and not be offended. And if I was going to throw an insult back, it had to be an insult that would normally not be an insult. It had to be something that was, you know, positive. And so it challenged me to figure out, well, how do you come back when someone makes fun of you for just being attractive, right? That's like, you can't get mad at that. But you do feel, oh man, he's making my job harder. So I have to figure out how to come back to it. So I think when you think about humor as a healing mechanism, it will increase the connections in your life. And I say humor is the fastest point between two strangers. You know, if you get on an elevator and the first thing you do is you go, did somebody fart? 9 times out of 10, the person on the elevator with you will laugh. And you just made a new friend.
Well, I just have to say, I've made a new friend. Although when you did say reference a 6'1" attractive Black man, I did think you were talking about me. But
I love that. I love that.
Mitch jumped off, but he said, great conversation. Looking forward to both of you buying me a cold beverage at CX. And Bez, he said, tell me a joke for HR people. I used to work at Kaiser Permanente, which has an HQ in Oakland. I'm not sure anything funny can come out of this.
Oh, there are lots of funny things about HR. But for those corporate gigs, my starting fee is $5K. So Bez, if you want those HR jokes.
Well, listen, if you were on the fence about coming to CEX, now it's a flippin' no-brainer. JaMarr John Johnson, guest number 359. He is the entrepreneur and handyman. We didn't even get to find out about his secret admiration for wanting to sing or his tattoo of a basketball on his arm, but you're just going to have to come to CX. Remember, if you use code Jaffe or Not Famous, you'll get $200 off your fee. You'll get to hang out with me, drinks on me, a little private get together, and a walk on roll on the show. But forget about me. Let's talk about JaMarr. You can follow him on Twitter, on the Twitter and Insta. You can find him in the club. You can discourse with him. Yeah, you can discourse with him in Discord. Buy his book, SuperConnecting, because he is a veteran. He is a veteran author. He's a veteran philosopher. He's a veteran. He's a veteran comedian. He has a course as well that accompanies the book, and you can sign up for that. Same URL. And finally, hire him to land the business of funny, killer keynotes and humor in your workshops and coaching. JaMarr, there is only 2 more things to do, and then I'm going to let you catch a plane. This is the quote that I selected for you. I always find a quote for my guests. It's a very simple one. It says, which would be even better if I took away Pulizzi's little logo there. Some people say funny things, but I say things funny. And that unfortunately was Don Rickles. Some people say funny things, but I say things funny. JaMarr, is absolute pleasure. And I tell you, you have 3 new friends. You have 4. You have Mitch, you have Bez, you have myself, and you have Chuck Norris.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
And I will be back tomorrow. Take care, everyone. See you in Phoenix. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show, and if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.